In a city that never looked twice at the people who kept its wheels turning, Sophia Reynolds had mastered the art of being overlooked. She moved like a shadow through long fluorescent aisles and routine lives, unseen, unbothered, but always present. No headlines followed her. No promotions waited at the end of her shift. She was the kind of person who remembered everyone's name, but whose own name was forgotten the moment she turned away. She didn't mind. Until the day one small act, a swipe of her debit card, a quiet "I got it," shattered the quiet life she'd built and rewrote her story entirely. It didn't feel like the beginning of anything extraordinary, but sometimes the most powerful revolutions start not with noise, but with grace. Stay glued as we uncovers what happened at the end of the story and the powerful message it beholds. Kindly like, share and comment where you are watching from, because it will encourage us to generate more powerful stories like this. Now let's begin, Sophia Reynolds. A black girl in her 20s wasn't a name people remembered. She was the kind of person who lived in the margins, quiet, dependable, invisible to most, yet vital to many. For 5 years, she'd stood behind the checkout counter at Harper's Grocery in Austin, Texas, wearing the same forest green apron and that practiced, patient smile. It wasn't glamorous work. It wasn't even particularly appreciated. But Sophia found a strange kind of peace in the rhythm of it, scanning items, bagging groceries, exchanging soft hellos with the regulars who came and went like clockwork. Her co-workers joked that she was too nice for retail. She never raised her voice, even when customers were rude. She remembered names, asked about kids, and even left small notes in the break room, little affirmations written in loopy cursive. You matter. Today can still be good. Breathe. She never signed them, but everyone knew they were hers. On a particularly muggy Wednesday afternoon, the kind that stuck to your skin like cling wrap, Sophia stood at register 3, humming softly as the line of customers ebbed and flowed. The air conditioning was on the fritz again, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry bees. She rubbed her temple, trying to shake off a dull headache that had been building since morning. That's when she saw him, the elderly man in the threadbare jacket, his steps slow and deliberate, eyes wary but kind. He held a wire basket filled with just a few essentials: soup cans, a loaf of bread, and a small carton of milk. Items that spoke of survival, not indulgence. He placed the basket down and gave her a polite nod. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his wallet. "Afternoon, sir," Sophia said gently, scanning each item and watching the total climb to a modest $11.46. "Staying cool out there?" The man chuckled softly, the sound like gravel. "Trying, miss. Feels like I'm back in the desert again." She smiled. "That bad, huh?" He opened his wallet, frowned, then began patting down his jacket pockets, his expression turning from amusement to panic. I was sure I had a 20 in here," he muttered. "I don't understand." Sophia's heart ached as she watched him. The shuffle of customers behind him grew impatient. Someone sighed loudly. "It's all right," she said quickly, trying to ease his discomfort. "Happens to all of us, don't worry, I got it." She pulled out her debit card and swiped it without hesitation. The man looked stunned. "Miss, you don't have to. Consider it a gift," she said, voice soft but resolute. "No strings." For a moment his eyes glistened. "God bless you," he whispered, hands shaking as he clutched the bag she handed him. She smiled. "Take care of yourself, okay?" But before the warmth of the moment could settle, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Sophia, my office. Now." Craig Benson, the store manager, stood by the doorway to the back office, his arms crossed and face flushed with fury. Sophia blinked, confused. "I was just..." "Now," he snapped. The old man turned to her, eyes wide. "I didn't mean to get you in trouble." She gave him a reassuring smile. "It's okay. You just take care of yourself, all right?" But inside, dread was already coiling in her stomach. The office door clicked shut behind her like a final judgment. The small, windowless room was suffocating, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and Craig Benson's cologne, a sharp, synthetic musk that seemed to claw at Sophia's nose. Craig paced behind the desk like a warden ready to pass sentence. "I can't believe what I just saw," he began, each word sharp, cold and cutting. "You know company policy. Number handouts." Sophia's heart pounded in her chest. "He couldn't afford food, Craig. It was $11. "That's not the point," he snapped. "It's theft, Sophia. Plain and simple. You used your own card. Doesn't matter. You blurred the lines. If corporate finds out..." "They won't," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It came from my pocket. No one else's." But Craig was already shaking his head. "We can't set a precedent. What happens when someone else pulls that stunt? Then another? It's chaos." Sophia stared at him, disbelief beginning to morph into something harder. Anger. "So I'm being punished? For being human?" "You're being fired," Craig said flatly, effective immediately. The words landed like a slap. Fired. After 5 years. Over a single act of kindness. Her ears rang. "You can't be serious," she whispered. Craig crossed his arms. "I'm dead serious. I need your badge and apron." Her hands moved on autopilot. She untied the apron slowly, each motion feeling surreal, like she was floating outside her own body. She left it folded on the desk, placed her name badge on top. No ceremony, no goodbye. Craig didn't offer a handshake, a thank you, nothing. "Security will escort you out," he added, already looking at his phone like she was no longer even there. But she didn't need security. She walked out on her own, through the store she'd given so many of her days to, past the customers she'd greeted 100 times, past the co-workers whose faces flickered with confusion as they watched her walk out the front doors and into the unforgiving Texas sun. She sat in her car with the engine off, the keys limp in her lap. Her phone buzzed, but she didn't check it. Her hands felt numb. Her thoughts were scattered fragments. Rent's due in 2 weeks. What will Mum say? What now? The parking lot was almost empty now. The buzz of the city faded beneath the weight of her thoughts. Every second that ticked by felt like a drop of water into a growing void. Then she saw it. A sleek black sedan, clean, unmarked except for the glint of government plates, pulled into the lot with slow precision. It stopped right in front of the store. The doors opened and 2 uniformed men stepped out, clean-cut, stone-faced, military. Sophia straightened in her seat, frowning. What in the world? Then the back door opened. Her breath caught in her throat. Out stepped the elderly man from earlier, the one with the soup cans and trembling hands. Only now. He didn't seem frail. He stood tall, back straight, eyes sharp. His jacket was gone, replaced by a crisp dress shirt and slacks. His posture wasn't that of a struggling retiree. It was the stance of someone who'd spent decades commanding attention. He turned toward the store without hesitation, flanked by the 2 men. Inside, Sophia could see Craig at the customer service desk, laughing with another employee. Then the doors swung open and everything changed. The officer approached him, a man with an air of authority that couldn't be faked. They spoke quietly, too quiet to hear, but the shift in Craig's expression was instant. His smirk faltered, his jaw clenched, his eyes widened. Then, his face drained of color. He started nodding, fast, too fast, eyes darting nervously toward the parking lot. Sophia's pulse quickened. What was happening? The officer stepped back, and the old man, no, the veteran, gestured in her direction. One of the men turned and motioned toward her car. Sophia's breath hitched. They're coming to me. She opened her door slowly, standing up as the veteran approached. Her instincts screamed to run, not out of fear, but out of sheer disbelief. It didn't feel real. None of it did. He stopped in front of her, smile soft, eyes steady. "Miss Reynolds," he said in a calm, commanding voice. "Do you have a moment?" She nodded wordlessly, heart pounding like a drum. "My name is Major Arthur Calloway, U.S. Army, retired. Earlier today, you did something most people would never even consider." He paused. "You helped me without knowing who I was, without asking for anything in return." She blinked. "I didn't." I didn't do it for recognition. I know, he said and smiled, which is why you deserve it all the more. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sealed envelope. I made a few calls. Sophia stared at the envelope in Major Calloway's hands. Its thick ivory paper and the raised gold seal suggested it came from someplace far above her pay grade. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it. But before she could open it, the Major paused. "There's something else you should know." She looked up, confused. "What is it?" A small, knowing smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, the kind that held secrets, big ones. "You changed the course of your life the moment you acted with compassion. But you didn't just impact me today. You caught the attention of someone very important to me." Sophia blinked. I don't understand." The Major glanced toward the car. The back door opened again, and another figure stepped out, tall, composed, and moving with the same quiet authority as Calloway. The sun caught his sharply cut suit, his stride confident but measured. His eyes found Sophia immediately, and in them was something she couldn't quite name. Not admiration, not curiosity. Something deeper. Recognition, maybe. "This is my son," Major Calloway said. "Colonel Elijah Calloway. Military intelligence. Top of his class. Decorated more times than I can count." Sophia could barely process the words. Her heart was racing again, but this time for an entirely different reason. The man, Elijah, approached, offering a warm but firm handshake. "Sophia," he said, voice low and calm, "it's an honor to meet you. My father told me everything." She hesitated, overwhelmed. "Everything. It was just a small act. I didn't think." "To you, maybe," Elijah replied. "But to someone who's served and been forgotten by so many, it meant the world. You didn't just help my father, you honored him. That's rare." She couldn't look away from his eyes. They held a kind of intensity that unsettled her, but not in a bad way. In a dangerous way, the kind that makes your soul sit up and pay attention. "You didn't deserve what happened in that store," Elijah added, his voice shifting slightly, darker now. "That manager? He humiliated you, fired you without a shred of empathy. That won't stand." Major Calloway nodded solemnly. "I made some calls, yes. But Elijah, he made sure this won't happen to another decent worker ever again." Sophia blinked. "What do you mean?" Elijah pulled out his phone, tapped something, then turned the screen toward her. On it was a press release, official, stamped with the Texas Department of Labor's seal. The headline hit like a punch. "Local grocery store faces state inquiry for unlawful termination practices." Below that, Craig Benson's name. Her mouth dropped open. "You're not the only employee he's mistreated," Elijah said. "We found patterns. I'm making sure he's held accountable." The weight of it all was starting to crash over her. Job lost, justice served, a powerful family stepping into her life like something out of a movie. And still, they weren't done. "Open the envelope," the Major said gently. Sophia did. Her eyes widened. Inside was a formal offer letter from the Texas Veterans Association, Director of Community Engagement. 6 figures. Full benefits. Relocation covered. A personal office. She covered her mouth. "This can't be real." "It is," Elijah said. "You've earned it." Tears sprang to her eyes, not just from gratitude, but disbelief. Was this kindness coming full circle? The Major smiled softly. "But there's one more thing." She looked up, still reeling. "I know this may seem sudden," he said carefully, "but my son, he doesn't open up easily. He's spent his life guarded, for good reason. Yet the moment he read your story, the moment he saw you in action, something shifted. He asked to meet you, not as a formality, but because something in his gut told him, you're someone worth knowing." Elijah stepped forward, his gaze unflinching. "I don't believe in fate," he said, "but I believe in recognizing a once-in-a-lifetime person when you see them. You don't have to say anything now, but if you're open to it, I'd like to take you to dinner, not as a soldier, not as a son, but as a man who deeply admires you." The silence between them pulsed like a held breath. Sophia couldn't speak. She didn't trust her voice. Her entire body was trembling, not in fear but in awe. The impossible was unfolding in front of her. Her worst moment had turned into the beginning of something she'd never dared to dream about. She nodded, just once. The Major smiled. Elijah smiled wider. Behind them, Craig Benson stood inside the store, slack-jawed, powerless, a prisoner behind glass. A man who had fired her for kindness, now watching her step into a black official car, arm in arm with a military colonel and the father she'd helped without hesitation. The black sedan moved silently down the highway, the tinted windows closing out the world that had once defined Sophia Reynolds. She sat in the back seat between Major Calloway and Elijah, the envelope still clutched in her hands like a life raft. It felt too heavy, too surreal, like some elaborate dream she'd wake from any second now. Elijah glanced over. "You okay?" She gave a small laugh, half choked, half bewildered. "Not even close. I think I'm somewhere between shock and a full existential breakdown." He smiled, and it was the first time she noticed it. Not the practiced kind people wore at work, but something gentler, real. "That's fair," he said. "Happens to the best of us when life suddenly makes a hard left turn." "Hard left," she said, turning to him. "I just got fired for feeding a hungry man, then offered a 6-figure job by that same man's son, who also wants to take me to dinner. That's not a left turn, Elijah. That's another dimension." He chuckled, a deep, warm sound. "You'd be surprised how often the world runs on quiet moments like that. One choice. One person doing the right thing when no one's watching." She fell silent, staring out the window at the fading skyline of Austin. "I've always believed kindness mattered, but it never paid bills, never made people listen." Elijah's voice softened. It did today. They arrived at a discreet, upscale restaurant tucked into a quiet corner of the city. Not flashy, but sophisticated. The kind of place where conversations happened behind closed doors and powerful names were whispered, not shouted. Sophia hesitated outside the door. "Are you sure I belong in a place like this?" Elijah opened the door for her. "You don't just belong, you elevate it." Inside, everything smelled like polished wood and quiet money. They were led to a private booth. The host didn't even ask Elijah's name. He was expected. Over dinner, a perfectly seared salmon for her, steak for him, Elijah let his guard down. Not much, but enough for her to glimpse the man behind the military precision. He told her about growing up in a household ruled by honor and silence, about his time overseas, the things he saw, the trust he'd lost in people until he saw her. Just a grainy surveillance clip at first, then her story, her eyes, her words. "It wasn't just that you paid for the food," he said, setting down his glass. "It was the way you looked at him, like he mattered." She was quiet for a moment. "Everyone should matter." "That's rare," he said. "You're rare." Her cheeks flushed, not from embarrassment, but something else. A dangerous little spark blooming beneath her ribs. Meanwhile, back at Harper's grocery, Craig Benson stormed into his office, slamming the door shut and dialing his district manager. "This is out of control," he barked. "Some government guys barged in here, threatened me, and now they're launching an investigation. For what?" Silence. Then the calm, clipped voice of his superior. "Craig, we've received multiple complaints from staff, customers, even the board. You can't be serious." "We are. Effective immediately. You're on unpaid leave pending a full review." He froze. "This is because of that girl. That girl." "No," the voice replied. "This is because of a pattern, and she was the last straw." The line went dead. Craig stood in stunned silence, sweat gathering at his brow. Outside, customers kept shopping, unaware that the man who once barked orders and punished kindness had just been stripped of his throne. Back in Sophia's world. After dinner, Elijah walked her to a hotel suite the association had reserved for her, overlooking downtown. She still hadn't said yes to the job, or the dinner invite, or any of it really. But her heart was already making decisions her head hadn't caught up to yet. At the door, Elijah hesitated. "I wasn't exaggerating," he said. "You don't have to answer anything now, but I want to see you again. Even if you don't take the job. Even if none of this works out." Sophia looked at him. Really looked at him. This wasn't just a man drawn to her out of gratitude. This was a man who saw her, and who was fighting his own battle with hope, just like she was. "I want to say yes," she said quietly. "To the job, to the dinner, to all of it." A slow smile spread across Elijah's face. "Then we'll take it one moment at a time." They stood there for a beat longer than necessary. Then she stepped into the suite, heart thundering. The door clicked shut behind her. And for the first time in what felt like years, Sophia Reynolds exhaled. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't powerless. She was at the beginning of something bigger than she'd ever imagined. A life reborn not in grand gestures, but in one quiet act of compassion. 2 weeks later, Sophia stood before a podium in a grand auditorium at the Texas Veterans Association's headquarters. The seal of the Lone Star State gleamed behind her. Cameras flashed. Reporters filled the aisles. She took a slow breath. She still wasn't used to this. The attention, the weight of leadership. But she belonged here now. "Before I say anything official," she began, voice steady, "I want to tell you a story about a woman who swiped her debit card for a stranger's groceries and got fired for it." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Cameras zoomed in. She thought she lost everything that day. But what she didn't know was that act of kindness was the spark. She looked toward the front row. Major Calloway sat there, proud and still. Beside him, Elijah, his gaze steady, protective, and something more, something deepening. "She didn't just feed a man," Sophia continued. "She honored his service. She reminded someone who had given everything for his country that he still mattered." Her voice caught slightly. She didn't fight it. She let the emotion through. "That moment taught me something I'll carry for the rest of my life. Compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. And in a world full of cold rules and blind policies, choosing kindness is a revolutionary act." Applause broke out, not polite but real. Rising, she stepped down from the podium to join Elijah and the Major. They didn't speak, they didn't need to. That same day, news broke across Texas media. Harper's Grocery CEO issued a public apology following an internal investigation. Craig Benson had been officially terminated, not just for wrongful termination, but for creating a hostile workplace culture over several years. Sophia didn't celebrate it, but she didn't mourn it either. She didn't want revenge. She had something better. Sophia's office was warm, not in design, but in energy. Letters from veterans lined the shelves, photos of smiling families, handshakes, reunions. Every day she helped someone find housing, a job, dignity. She never saw it coming, this life. But somehow, it felt inevitable. Like all the broken pieces of her old world had shattered in just the right way to create this new one. Late one evening, after another long day, she stepped out onto the office balcony with Elijah. The city glowed below them. "You've changed everything," he said quietly. Sophia turned to him. "Number kindness changed everything. I just didn't realize how powerful it was until the world tried to punish me for it." Elijah reached for her hand. "There's something else I've been wanting to ask you." Her heart skipped. Again. It always did around him. He pulled something from his coat pocket. Not a ring. A key. "To my life," he said. "Not rushing anything. But if you ever want to walk into it, it's yours." Sophia took the key, slowly, deliberately. She smiled. "I already opened that door the moment I paid for your father," he leaned in. not rushed, not hesitant, and kissed her. Software, steady, certain. And in that moment, everything was still. The war-torn veteran, the kind woman with nothing, the son who saw more in her than she saw in herself, all connected by one simple act of grace. 1 year later, Sophia sat at a roundtable summit in Washington, D.C., her nameplate reading, Sophia Reynolds, Director of Veteran Outreach, Texas Veterans Association. A young intern approached her with a question, nervous, eager. "Mom, I just wanted to say, you inspire me." Sophia smiled gently. "Then go out there," she said, "and inspire someone else." Because now she knew, kindness doesn't just survive the world, it changes it.